A lot of you are probably using Clay to generate leads for your business, and I was doing that too. But recently, I started doing something with Clay that I see anyone else is not doing it. Okay, let me show you what I'm doing. So I'm helping my clients get on podcasts with the help of Clay. The use of Clay here is to personalize my outreach at scale. So when I'm reaching out to podcasts, my chances of getting a response are higher. So step one, I have already downloaded a list of podcasts with the contact of their host. The platform that I'm using for that, it's called Hot Seeker. You can also use Listen Notes or Podcast DB, depends on you. And let me now show you how it's done. So I go here, let me just duplicate the table that I've already built. All right, it's here. We are going to import the list of the podcasts. Now I see that most of you think that Clay can only be used for a list of companies and people. I don't think so. As long as you have a list you want to perform a research on, it's going to work. It's going to be useful for you. And yeah, that's what I think. Okay, let's say I am gonna upload this list. So here we have a list of the podcasts with the name of the publishers, their email address, and that's all we need to go ahead. So the first prompt that I am using with play enrichment, it's this. Visit the Apple Podcast list of the podcast. I'm going to provide the Apple Podcast list and tell me who is the target listener of the podcast. So the output should be clear, crisp, and under 5 words. The output should be lowercase. And if there are two or more than two target listeners, separate them, separate the last one with an and. I mean, these are some basic things, but I still have to tell ChatGPT how to give an output because it's going to do what I'm going to tell it to. And yeah, let me just save it and run for the first 10 rows. Let me delete the top three columns. Okay, we are almost done with this. Let me just show you another thing that I use. Another prompt, which is visit the Apple Podcast link of the podcast and tell me what the podcast is mainly about. The output should be clear, crisp, and in lowercase. The output should be in under 5 words. Data, everything is done. And I hit save and then run it for the first 10 rows. While it's in the process, let me go ahead and edit this one as well. Visit the Apple Podcast link on the podcast and give me a person like this prompt is gonna be like the most amazing one because in this one you have to give it a step by step guide on the exact output that you want. So visit the Apple Podcast link on the podcast and give me a personalized line that complements their recent episode because that's what I'm gonna be using at the top. That's what going to have the host open my email. So there are two cases. I'm gonna have to tell it the cases because I have found this after running this prompt over and over again. Then I had to refine it after a couple of times. So if they had a guest on their most recent episode, use this framework. Enjoyed the recent episode with guest name on the topic summary. Guest name here refers to the name of the guest they had on the show, and the topic summary should be a 3 to 6 word summary of what they discussed in the episode. Second, if they didn't have a guest on their recent episode, then use this framework. Enjoyed your recent episode on the episode summary. In the case above, the episode summary is a 3 to 6 word summary of the episode, especially the heading of what they talked about in the episode. The entire output for both the cases shouldn't be more than 15 words. GPT 3.5 Turbo, maximum cost this. I'm gonna hit save and do this. So as you can see, in less than 5 minutes, I can have at least three personalization factors, three personalized lines that I can use for my outreach. First, I know the kind of audience they have. This helps me filter the podcasts that aren't a good fit for my clients out. So let's say my client doesn't want to be on this podcast, animal enthusiast, and he isn't an animal enthusiast. Okay, so I'm gonna remove it. Everything else looks good. Also, when I'm reaching out, I want to mention them that hey, I have done the research and I know that you discuss about these podcast topics. You talk about entrepreneurship, connection, and purpose. You talk about the podcast is about real life counseling sessions. You talk about seeking light and finding joy in challenges. And these are going to be like the second personalization factor. The first, which is going to be at the top, is this. Let's look at the output. That's amazing. Enjoyed the recent episode with Troy Bonifus on near death experience and fire. Um, enjoyed the recent episode with Anna on managing overwhelm. I mean, this is amazing. Previously I had to do all this manually. I would visit the link of the podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcast link, and I would manually, look at the podcast description and had to write the personalization factors like, hey, this is the topic that guest discussed about, and that's when I would go ahead and use that in my outreach email. So right now I'm doing all that manually, and it takes me less than 10 minutes to build a list of 50 or even 100 podcasts which I can reach out to and book my clients on. So it's easy peasy like that. I think Clay is mostly about creativity. The more ideas you can come up with, the better it's going to help you for growing your business. So yeah, that's it for now. See ya another day.